Good morning, everybody. This is Moriah Sanchez with Networking Action, and our special guest today is Dr. Fred Blum. Welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Blum, what is your favorite customer service story?
Well, one comes to mind. It goes back a few years, but it really was one that sort of got me started in the direction that I'm working in now. I still remember, this was back when I used to live in New York, and the man's name was Leon. I won't give his last name, but Leon was a very, very successful real estate developer in New York City. Leon was worth high 8 figures, like 80 or $90 million. And he had all the toys and the stuff that comes with that kind of success, the private plane and the $10 million home and all of that stuff. And Leon was miserable. He spent probably 10 minutes just talking when we first met about how no one understands him, no one understands how hard he works, no one understood the pressure he was under, and that essentially he felt trapped, that he had built this enormous, business that on the outside looked like this enormous win, except that he felt trapped by it. He felt like too many people were depending on him. He felt like he couldn't count on anyone else to do the jobs that needed to be done. So he was working, 60-hour weeks and all this kind of thing. And he was miserable. And I'll never forget that moment when he spoke for a very long time and I didn't say a word. And finally, after about close to 10 minutes, I held up my hand and I said, Leon, what if you could have everything that you've worked so hard for in your life and still have peace in your heart? And Leon teared up. And I can tell you that Leon was not a man who cried. Leon was a man who made other people cry. He was a tough guy. But I think it touched a chord in him because he saw that he felt like there was no solution, that this was just his life. And that's a common thing with my clients is they get to this point where they're like, this is my life now. I'm trapped in it. I built, a prison of success and now I can't. And so we began exploring that, like the possibility of finding peace and well-being in yourself rather than in your circumstances, in what looks like is unchangeable out there. And it took some work, I won't lie. He was a tough cookie, but we were eventually able to turn the corner where he was able to be in his life without really changing too much on the external necessarily, but for him to be able to be in his life differently. And it changed a lot for him. And that was a long time ago, but it meant a lot to me. And it got me to see how successful people are often. We expect successful people to just be happy because they got what they went after, usually. It looks like they won the game. And in reality, they're almost often very ashamed because they got what they thought they wanted. And in fact, they're not happy getting what they thought they wanted.
What a beautiful story. And thank you so much for sharing. That is very inspiring. Please also tell our audience what makes you different and special. Obviously, you already shared an incredible story and you have a great career.
Well, as a coach, I do draw on a lot of different areas of experience. We were saying earlier that I had, practiced as a holistic chiropractor for 25 years. And because it's very kind of subtle energy type work, that it gave me a lot of awareness of things that most people don't see, but do, like I call them the invisible forces that shape our lives. And energy is something that surrounds us, it's all around us, and it affects us, but most of us don't realize that it is. And so I might be having a conversation with a client, and they'll say something this just happened the other day. They say something that just seems like a throwaway comment, like, oh, some good days, some bad days. Someone said that to me the other day. But it wasn't the words, it was the tone, the energy in which they expressed it that caught my attention in a way that I was able to follow that up. Wait, tell me more about that. And by the end of that hour, we had created a huge breakthrough for this person where he saw something about the way he related to the world that this was, in this particular case, this was a brilliant individual. This is someone who had what I call $1 billion skill set in terms of like his skills, his education, et cetera, et cetera. And he had a story in his head that literally he named, after we worked with it for a little while, he called it inevitable failure. In other words, from that conversation, from that opening statement of some good days, some bad days, by me paying attention to the undercurrent of that statement, we found something that was literally causing him to fail in these huge projects, because he expected failure from the beginning and he didn't even see it until we were able to distinguish it. So one of I think my superpowers is that I pay attention. I pay attention in a different way than a lot of people pay attention. I think it can be very helpful.
You're very personable for sure. And last but not least, how can somebody reach you? What is the best way?
Honestly, I would be happy if they just called me on the phone. Sometimes I have people answering the phones for me, but most of the time it's me. And so I'm happy to hear from you. If you have a question or something like that, just pick up the phone. My number is 512-584-9075. I'm sure it's on the website already. Yeah, I'd be happy to hear from you. I'd be happy to talk to you. If you'd rather not call, you're welcome to email me first. And that's Dr. Fred, DRFRED, at energyrichliving.net. I'm sure that's on the NIA site as well.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Have a great day. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Moriah.